We're at Casio. Inspirational message by TouchMyClock.
Hello everybody, from fans to tickheads also being fans. This is Touch My Clock for another podcast, although let's be honest, this isn't a podcast anymore. Podcast. This is just, it's a mix between show and tell and then some really nerdy stuff. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about watches that will get you robbed in London, as well as watches that won't get you robbed in London. So as I'm sure for most of our listeners in England and London know, watch robberies have been increasing year by year. Yeah. It's really dangerous, and they literally have a task force dedicated from the police to tackle this problem. So we wanted to talk about this in two ways. One, what are some of the watches that we would recommend potentially against purely for its robbability. And then watches we think are amazing watches to have that won't get you robbed. So without further ado, I'll jump straight into my wristwatch check. And mine is one of my favourite watches. You got me this, I believe. I gave you this. Eliot got me this watch, and it shows you don't need to spend a lot of money to have a fantastic piece with a great history. This is the Casio Calculator watch. You can see it on Marty McFly's wrist. I love it. I'm not going to get robbed. Happy days. Eliot, what about you?
I'm wearing a vintage Seiko from the late 60s. This was celebrated for the Olympics back in the time. I think this is kind of the watch that won't get you robbed either, because it's unique and vintage. So you can find a lot of old watches that are really unique, and I don't think someone sees that in the street and goes, "Oh yeah."
But do you
that's worth a lot.
Do you think that's just generally for Seikos? Do you think Seiko's a brand of watch that people
I think
don't?
So. Depends, because actually, if you have a Seiko 5, or the SKX in the Pepsi colors, I have a lot of friends tell me, "Oh, is that a Rolex?" I go, no. So I wouldn't wear the Pepsi SKX. But something like this, I think no one would ever know what it is. Most people wouldn't guess if it costs for £10 or $500.
Very cool.
Whereas to play completely different, I have on my wrist something that you, Max, talked about some time ago, actually on an original program.
Buying watches.
But this is actually
cool.
One of the cheapest watches
that's really nice.
in my collection, but one of the most useful. This is called the Time and Tide from Timex. And I think what's really cool about this is I need to know the time, because when you row, you need to go with the tide, and you need to know exactly what the tide's doing, when it's coming in, when it's coming out. This one I can set and set to say when the tide is going to be at high tide and low tide, and there's a lovely way of actually just watching it, like twin colours and an arrow, to tell me when it's high tide and when it's about to change. I use this every single time I row, because it's so useful, because I know that I'm out for a while, I know when I'm going to come back. So a really, since I've got it, so it's a really inexpensive watch, but really practical, really good tool watch in terms of usability.
But you wear it on a leather strap?
I wear it on a leather strap. I'm such a good row. I'm such a good row. I never splash, so we're in a good place. It depends who else I'm rowing with. No doubt I'll be changing the strap at some time. But the usability of when you've got a tool watch of something that's really cool to use, I think is really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
we talked about this in one of the very first episodes that was Cowboys, Pirates and Samurais, and this was, I believe it was my pick. I believe that, but this is such a...
you had
a better design.
North with the...
Yeah.
So as for the quick wrist check...
No. This was the wrist check. And also, you picked for the least robbable watch. This is one of the most robbable watches I think you can think of. Because this looks like a Samara. It looks like a Samara.
It looks like a Samara.
So you pick the watch that will get you robbed.
Wow. So you would get your arm chopped off.
You're the type of guy, £200.
I think to bring this episode alive, to bring a little bit of context of what we're talking about, and to get Captain Boring really exciting, I think we need to start with what the fuss is all around. And this is from the Queen Foundation, the Rolex.
Is this your
the Rolex Daytona, a truly stunning piece, and they retail for about £17,000 to £18,000. And this is what about. You're walking down the street with a watch that you've got on your hand that's sort of $18,000 or so, but really nice, good sort of racing theme. I won't go on it too much. much because you'll take the mickey, but it's got a lot of history, a lot of fun. Whether it's your particular watch or not, it's a very, very style icon piece. But that's what it's all about. That's what people are taking your hand off. Now, what was interesting, Rolex, is they brought out a clip, haven't they? That you can put on the back of your watch to secure it.
No, that's an independent company.
And so therefore it's quite good. So I think, if I do the example, but that only works on certain occasions. So if you've got the watch on your hand, what they call I think it was the golf course, the golf course piece, a really pretty girl would come up.
Is he on? What are you on about?
This is
what are you talking about?
The really pretty girl comes up and starts talking to you. An old man holds her hand like this and says, "Would you sign this petition?" And as you signing the petition, play act, come on, sign the petition, whips the watches away from underneath. Now, the Rolex this sort of Rolex piece stops it. That avoids you sort of stealing it. However, let's face it, would you really have something? No, in that instance,
just walk away.
In that instance,
Let him do it.
In that instance,
You don't do the episode.
In that instance, it helps you.
What did we just say before?
What did we just say?
No rambling.
We said.
No, but this is key part of the robbery piece.
You're rambling.
Would you, come on guys, would you wear a lock on the back of your wrist if you've got a 20 gram watch? Because surely just someone with a machete just takes your hand off. Is that a really clever thing to do?
I need to see what that lock looks like. I'd be interested to know.
No, it's a terrible idea.
How it looks. Is it just a big piece
Basically,
of plastic?
it's like a small rectangle thing that you can set on the bracelet, the back of the bracelet of your Rolex. So you can't take it off without a small key. The thing is if you have a robber that's coming in with a machete, and he's like, "Give me your watch," and you go, "Oh, I don't have the key." You think what he's going to be nice? Oh, sorry, sir. Go on your way back home with your Rolex. No, he's going to take his machete and chop your arm off.
So fairly relevant to the episode.
Yeah, I guess, but he rambled a bit. But
So that was very cool. So actually, I have a little surprise. Now, hopefully, this is an exercise that won't take more than 2-3 minutes. But I wanted to do something before you show the watch you would pick. Is that a?
Wonderful.
allowed? Yeah, I allow it.
All right,
You're on a roll.
This is a fun little game I call Who's Gonna Get Robbed?
Is it Little Timmy?
So this is
Oh, nice.
here we have. Let's move this
Tier
out of the
list.
way for a bit. Here we've got a tier list, and I've printed out. I've printed out some of the most famous watches
What a great game.
in the market. Now, I want you guys to tell me, and we could use this quite literally as the watch.
Yeah.
Where would you place these watches in a tier list of most robbable to least robbable? Now, this isn't a question about quality, it's just which do you think are going to be robbed first?
Okay.
So
Most robbable.
you'd put the
Which
Daytona
then
at the
when
top.
takes, actually, no one really understands fully this then. So for me, every single Rolex, because it's such a well-known brand.
Yeah, I agree.
Would
The
be
Rolex-
way
No,
up there.
you need this one. We've got the real one.
Would be
Yeah, that's true.
would be way up there because actually people just see Rolex and they go, right, that's it. I know it's resellable. I know it's a quick market.
agree.
I'm going to go. So it's the aftermarket that
So
really
we
makes
can go one each. I think then, if you're wearing a Patek, and especially anything that's like, gold colors, I think it's highly likely as well. I think slightly less, so I would go A tier.
A tier?
I would go A tier.
We could leave it like this. And
Yes.
just
I would go
essentially
A tier.
A tier.
Because I think it's very robbable, but it's not I think the prime suspects, are steel watches. They can see it from a mile away. Submariners, AP Royal
Which
Oak,
is interesting, right?
and that's what they look for because they know that's a quick resale bucket.
So then, where would you place the Omega Speedmaster? Is that a very robbable, not too robbable?
I would go maybe B tier.
Yeah, B.
I think B tier. I think it's steel, but it's not as as known as the others. But I think you still would.
Where
get
would you
robbed.
put for you? Where would you put the Tudor? Because your point was anything that looks like a Rolex. So would you?
Yeah.
put
Very
that?
much. So the Tudor will be up there, but they'll be looking for the actual Rolex name. Now, what's interesting is some of the Tudors, bear in mind, the same company, have got movements that are actually even better than Rolex. But you're going to be sitting probably just below Omega. On the Pelagus.
You think that's C tier?
On the Pelagus, it's got an
I think it'd be
incredible movement. So I think just for fun, I'm just going to take your Hublot, and unless you're a rap star, I'm pretty sure that the majority of the street would see that as pretty inexpensive. And so that would probably be down to the C to D.
I
for
think
me.
it would go around C tier.
Even though that is probably one of the most expensive
Yeah, it's
ones on
super
that board.
expensive, but from far away, if you see a big bold red watch, I don't think you'll be like, oh, that's expensive.
Interesting point.
You might think it's a
yeah.
G-Shock.
So, here are the last few ones. I would put Audemars Piguet, the Royal Oak, in the top.
Yeah, that's S tier for sure.
That's S tier.
That's
I
what
think
they look for.
That is so recognizable, so stealable. I would actually put I'm interested to know what you guys think. I would put Cartier quite high because I think nowadays smaller watches, smaller gold watches are being noticed, and so it would have been CD, and I think now it'd be C. So I feel
I agree.
Whereas Long & Son, stunning, beautiful watch. Is it really recognisable to the average person in the streets? I'd just probably sit there and think just be below this.
I think, I would go somewhere like B and C. I think it's very dependent as well, of course, if you're sitting in a Rolls Royce with your arm outside the window with a Lange, someone will take it. But if you're in a t-shirt, walking in the street with that, maybe not as much as you would on the road.
I'm going to leave it there.
Great game.
Because this was a good game. I would potentially move the Tudor up, actually. And this is a part of
I would move it up as well.
design where you go...
Because it's similar characteristics.
In terms of robbery.
So I would go, B to A.
Awesome. So now, really quickly, we're going to talk about what watches we'd like to own, or potentially already own, that we don't think are robbable and are fantastic pieces. Eliot, perhaps I'll start with you.
Yeah, I can
That way
start.
we finish with a bang.
So, hopefully it's not a big bang from the book.
Da-da-da.
Big bang. Anyway, so the pick I took, so I thought the most robbable thing for me is the Submariner. So I thought, let me find a replacement for the Submariner. So for me, it's the Zodiac Super Seawolf. So
that was my second choice.
I'm picking it for a certain reason. First of all, history. So the Seawolf came out in like 1953 and was the same year, the 50 Fathoms. What year was it?
We did a whole episode about this.
Yeah,
we did a whole episode where we covered the fact that the Zodiac never came out, and that's why I didn't pick it. But
anyway.
if you read the brand history,
It's on the brand history.
First
But anyway,
one,
it was released the same year as the 50 Fathoms and the Submariner, apparently. Probably not, but it doesn't matter. They're fantastic watches. They're really affordable, and they had really good depth ratings. So they were used a lot in the military, and they were used in the Navy and things like that. So this is an older version of it. So this is the Seawolf.
You said pick one.
I know, but I'm just showing history here.
Oh, beautiful.
So this is the watch I would pick. So this watch is around, I think, $1.5 or so. You have, a bracelet that's a quick release to remove, so you can change it with the rubber straps if you want to go diving. I think it has a really nice style, nice and summery, and I don't think someone would see that and be like, "Oh, yeah, this is an expensive watch." If you told someone this was £200, they probably would agree with you.
Yeah. It has to do with the color of the bezel. People tend to think of more traditional colors with more expensive watches, or traditional metal. So if you see gold, then you go, oh, this is expensive. Exactly. But if you show a carbon watch, which potentially could be more expensive, right? We're talking about Richard Mille and all these. Sometimes people don't know.
So
that's a good pick.
That's my pick. That's the watch I think you wouldn't get robbed in London.
Are you next?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, next. My one is one that recently came out in terms of its variations. So I'm going to show and cheat a bit. I'm going to show a bunch of watches. So I made a tier list for, so all in theme, for this. This was from Nomos Glashut coming out this year, and they basically I ranked some of the watches that came out. They produced 31 watches, one for every day of the month, and they are so... the one I picked just to make it a bit easier on you guys.
Oh, nice.
Is this one. And this one is, if you want to see the ranking, go check out.
I love the chic design.
TouchMyClock on Instagram. They're just... Before you... I could sense you're just ready to
No, I
pull
just
the
want
paper.
to just go back to this and say, if this is the stealability, honestly...
It's not stealability.
Oh, it's not
just
S,
the ranking
S to
of
F.
how good it is.
Oh, I see.
No,
I
this
thought
is
we're back
just
to
how I
stealability.
like it.
He likes them.
Why one's more
But
than the other.
no one would look at this and think this is a very expensive watch.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about Nomos enough. Fantastic watches.
Yeah, stunning.
Yeah.
I love the clubs.
No, I completely agree. I don't think anyone would ever know. I don't think you would ever get robbed of this.
No,
That's a pretty good pick.
you can throw these away now.
So for you, what is that supposed to compare to? Is that a replacement to a
There's no
centerpiece, or it's
replacement.
just a unique?
It's just a
unique luxury watch.
Just
Everyone
a
get
good
you
piece. Just a really wonderful piece with a lot of history, and people shouldn't feel weird about spending an amount of money on a watch that's not as well known.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think that's how it's
All right, well, let's leave the ramble to the final.
Let's leave. No, I won't ramble at all. I'm going to leave the final game. Here we go. Here's the final game, guys. This would be in terms of, if you're out there, we've seen these watches before on previous episodes, so go back and download them. But if you were going down, which watch would you, which one would you take, guys, and walk down the street comfortably with it, while still having a bit of ecological bliss?
This is the second game of the day. That's
No,
very
don't
exciting
you love
for
all these games? So you get to choose one particular watch that you think.
G-Shock.
There we
but
go.
are we talking about like
Classic. And that's a
not
lovely
very too
Bamford
easy.
D-Shop. Which
But we're talking about we're trying to find a luxury one that won't get you robbed, like an expensive watch. So I would, for example, probably maybe even go for the Chopin. Because I think the Chopin you wouldn't get recognised as an expensive watch. So even though this is an expensive watch,
That's about 8, which is 2 more than your list price of a Rolex.
yeah, exactly. So you're the same price of a Rolex basically, and I don't think you would get rollers with this certain color scheme. I think and it's really amazing. So that's what I would say.
Interesting.
Yourself?
What would you say?
I would tone down and I would go for probably the Italian Unimatic, which is a good, nice, sturdy watch. No one would look twice at it. But,
People
it's
would
really,
look twice.
Really,
would look really
it
mad.
really,
looks
really
similar.
well. Really,
Similar
really well
grain.
made. I don't think that's.
You're
I don't think
terrible.
that's nickable.
This is every pick.
You're having the
then-
most nickable.
But then I'm quite
You get
comfortable. I
pleasure
would
from the idea of
I
getting
would
it
quite
wrong.
happily wear the Daytona. I've got a black belt in karate. I grew up with doing kung fu. So bring it on, guys. Bring it on. Max.
In the post, I'm gonna do I'll cut this out, but I'll do.
Here's my IP address.
No. I'll do one where
trying
it's
to-
like a news report. Jason, someone got stabbed at East Putney Station.
Now in East Putney, the robbers are nice. Hello,
So-
my name's Rupert. Terribly sorry. Have to mug you today.
We're at Casio. Inspirational message by TouchMyClock.
What? So, Max.
Yeah.
Jesus. I think that's
So this box lost 10% value already.
Isn't it incredible you can get on AliExpress?
They're tough. Last around London with these bad boys and no one's
Yeah,
gonna
you definitely won't get robbed.
That's really cool. Any last words?
Remember to
Like.
and to
Subscribe.
and comment and tell us about the watches you would wear in the street. Fabulous to see you guys. Another mad episode of Touch My Clock.
Boy.
See you. Look at that, honestly.